What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Awakening World. I'm Love Coach Scott Thomas. I'm your host. And tonight is another edition of Authors That We Love. And we're actually adding a little word to it. We're calling it Authors and Artists That We Love. And we're going to meet three wonderful artists, authors, and also the great Kurt Johnson is with us. So it's going to be a wonderful show. I want to welcome all of you who are watching on Facebook, on YouTube, on our broadcast partners, Steve Farrell's Humanities team, all of our friends on Conscious Awakening Network, and Ellen Steinfeld's YouTube channel, New Realities. Welcome, everybody. And you may want to come on into the Zoom room because that's where we can interact directly with our amazing Zoom room audience and all of our guests. And if you want to come into the Zoom room, it's easy. Just go to globalpeacetribe.com, like what's behind me, globalpeacetribe.com, register, you get the Zoom room links right away, and you can come on into our Zoom room, which is always a wonderful thing. We're going to meet our authors in a moment, but first off, he is the busiest man I know, and that includes myself. This is Kurt Johnson, and Kurt's going to be with us tonight. He is the creator and man who makes so many things happen on Light on Light Press. He shepherds all sorts of books and authors, and he also oversees 22 synergy circles for the hopefully enlightened, for the Evolutionary Leaders Circle, which I'm grateful to be a part of. So we have Kurt with us and his new blessing that he's bringing to our audience, Karuna. And we're going to learn all about this wonderful book she's written about Kundalini. We also have a friend of mine, Christopher Stubbs, who has been involved in conscious men's work for a very long time. He's an incredible guy. I've gotten to know him quite well. And he has a very unique book all about the new masculine, which we're going to hear about. And then one of my oldest friends, not that she's old, but our relationship has been, I think, 2 decades. Marcy Winters is with us, and she's a filmmaker, an author, a musical artist. So we're going to meet these wonderful people. But speaking of artists, we always start our show with music. And of course, we are blessed to have our house musical artist, my co-pilot, the one and only Omar Shar. Take it away, brother.
In the house. So namaste and welcome everybody. And this is a song called The Way Things Are. From my perspective, I have to take ownership. And it's a gentle song, so you can waltz to it. Or if you have a cat or a dog, Roger, then you can waltz with your pets. And so here we go, changing mics off.
What do you see when you're alone? What do you feel when you are by yourself? How could it be that you are here? Isn't it strange the way things are? Look at the river flowing by. Look at the colors of the butterfly. How do you feel about your life? Isn't it strange the way things are? Like a dolphin in the ocean, I can hear you calling me. Come on and you say, the water's fine, I have come to set you free. You have never been alone, my friend, I was just a thought away. And there's a deeper love that's holding you and is here to lead the way. La da da ba. And now that you see you're not alone, and there is no such thing as by yourself, there is a hand that's lifting you into the presence of yourself. And life is a tale that never ends. There is a purpose to each heart that beats, and you are the river flowing by. You are the colors of the butterfly, like a dolphin in the ocean, I can hear you calling me. Come on and you say, the water's fine, I have come to set you free. You have never been alone, my friend, I was just a thought away. And there's a deeper love that's holding you and is here to lead the way. La da da ba. Like a dolphin in the ocean, I can hear you calling me. Come on and you say, the water's fine, I have come to set you free. You have never been alone, my friend, I was just a thought away. And there's a deeper love that's holding you and is here to lead the way. La 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 ba.
Let's give him a good twinkle, our beloved Omar Shar. We twinkle here on the Awakening World.
Thank you so much. Love the twinkles. Can feel them all through the airwaves. See you later.
You will see him later. And also just want to remind everybody that we can support this beautiful man by going to omashar.bandcamp.com. That's where 5 wonderful albums live. And of course, you hear a lot of these songs on the Awakening World. We are so blessed that he's with us every Wednesday and Saturday night and on special shows like tomorrow night. But you can also get his music. And the best place is at Bandcamp. So his name, Omar Shar, omashar.bandcamp.com.
Thank you, Scott.
Well, thank you very much. Well, you know, we've been doing this show now for 4.5 years, and there's certain people that have been with us really from the very, very beginning, back when we were Saturday Night Alive for the Global Peace Tribe. I know there's some core Zoom room members with us right now who've been with us from the beginning, Reverend Jeffrey and Bonnie and Roger, Eleanor Joy. Oh, and you know, speaking of Eleanor Joy, I'm going to put the spotlight on you for a moment, Eleanor Joy, because I read a beautiful email about how today, August 21st, is the day that she dedicates to her mother. And she wrote a beautiful email about the spirit of her mother coming into her, and that got her up and dancing. And Eleanor Joy is who initiated what has become a tradition of people dancing to Omar Shar songs. So Eleanor Joy, as a beloved community member, I just want to acknowledge you and the spirit of your mother, who lives on through you, and now through you dancing and everybody else who's dancing. And it all started with you and your mom. So thank you, thank you. All right. Anyway, where I was, before I remember to acknowledge Eleanor Joy, is I'm bringing up Kurt Johnson. And this guy is amazing. Really, Kurt, I have so much respect for all that you do. And the synergy circles, the books, the authors, and every author you've brought onto the show has always been really fascinating and extraordinary. So thank you. And I would love for you to tell us a little bit about Light on Light Press for the people who don't know about it. Yeah, take it away.
Yeah, so absolutely. So I'll say a little bit about Light on Light for starters, and I'll take less time on that because I want to talk more about Karuna. But Karuna actually is fundamental to Light on Light because she's one of the founders. And the reason that that happened is that actually Karuna and I met nearly 15 years ago in Costa Rica, of all places. Otherwise, we hadn't crossed paths there. We might not have crossed paths at all. And then she started becoming a staple in everything we were doing here in New York with the United Nations for Yoga Day and with the UN committee, for the annual Yoga Day. And we do the magazine for the annual Yoga Day issue. And so Karuna would come out and she would do the programs with Deepak Chopra and Ken Wilber and Denise Scotto and all the other programs that we did to celebrate UN Yoga Day. So back when the evolutionary leaders won a Nautilus Award for their book, Our Moment of Choice, well, Bob Atkinson and I, who were 2 of the editors, we decided, let's sit down and let's talk about founding a press just to do about books about the paradigm change. So actually that says Light and Light in a nutshell. Our books are about the paradigm shift, and Karuna has been involved with that from the beginning. Also in our radio series at Voice America, which is also called Humanity's Moment of Choice. So that's how Light and Light came about. And we've got lots of free e-magazines, which you'll love. And those are easy to find at issuu.com/lightonlight. And we'll make sure that gets to you. You pull those up, you just click on the covers. All of those are free. They're beautifully done. You're going to see a lot of your friends there, from Deepak to Mindahi Bastida. There's just every theme there, from eco to women, you name it. We've done it. So we've just felt really lucky at Light on Light. We've won 8 Nautilus Awards and 1 Legacy Award. And 2024, we won 2 Nautilus Awards and Best in Small Press from Nautilus. And that was for this book with Ervin Laszlo, again, The Great Upshift, all about the paradigm shift. So enough said about Light on Light, except that also, foundation for Karuna and everything we've done together. So the book that we're doing now that we're going to talk about tonight, I'm excited about because It's been in process for 5 years. We've worked on this book with Karuna for 5 years. And the reason is, and you'll see it in a nutshell, there is so much to tell. When you talk about Dharma teachers or spiritual teachers that have a unique past and therefore a unique pedigree and an incredible story to tell, she's really one of them. I'm going to take a little time just to tell you about that because she would be too modest to tell you. And that will allow everyone to have something to talk about as we go ahead. Scott will know these details and everybody can have fun kicking around. So for her story about how then she becomes a yogini and a Dharma teacher and a health and wellness professional, you really have to go through 3 different names. And the first one is Carrie Pagano. Now, if you're thinking Chuck and John Pagano, the NFL football coaches, yeah, those are her brothers. So there's the Carrie Pagano story, but that's the name that she started in her career in fashion and film. And what's really important there, and you can have a lot of fun on the internet with this, is that her career in modeling and in film is all wrapped up with France's most famous fashion photographer, a fellow whose name is Guy Bourdin, Guy Bourdin, Bourdin, if we anglicize it. If you go to Wikipedia, you find out, okay, he is not only France's most famous fashion photographer, but here's the link to Karuna. His photographs, his fashion photographs that are in museums in the world, I'm just going to go through a little bit of the list, in the Tate in London, in MoMA in New York, the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, the Getty Museum, the Victoria and Albert in London, the National Galleries of Australia and France, and the Masson exhibition in Paris, which is 5 floors. Now, who is the model in many, if not most, of those famous photos when she was 19 or 20 years old is Carrie Pagano, now known as Karuna. And so what's interesting about all that is this is before the age of the internet. So it's hard to go back and find a lot of this. So you've not only got everything that Karuna did as Carrie Pagano in film and fashion in that era, but then she has other benchmarks that she jokes are sometimes hard to live down in the Dharma community. And one is that she was Victoria's Secret's first cover girl in 1984. And also, if you get on the internet and you're really clever at searching, you'll find old Merv Griffin shows. I don't know if you remember Merv Griffin. You may, of course, remember Johnny Carson, those shows, but she was on, I think, that night with Jerry Hall and I think maybe Angie Dickinson. I'm not sure, but you can find that stuff. But because it's before the internet era, it's hard to find. But this is a part of her story. And then you have to go from that story from Carrie Pagano to Caroline Ashley. Now, all of the women in the audience, if you've ever bought a Laura Ashley dress or any Laura Ashley fashions, then that's the Laura Ashley we're talking about. And Karuna, then Caroline, just happened to marry into that family. So some of the amazing stories just from that period that are also in the book is her having to learn to curtsy because she had to go meet Princess Di, because actually the Laura Ashley family is British royalty. They're knighted. So when she was in that family, then there were all the things that you do with British royalty. So there's got all of those stories, which would be unique in themselves. And then, of course, in the heyday of fun and games, they would be flying back and forth across the English Channel to parties in France with Pink Floyd on Pink Floyd's Pink Airplane. So there are just so many wiggles and waggles in her story, first as Carrie Pagano and then as Caroline Ashley, that you just don't find these stories anywhere else. And then in that period also is when she took her theater training, which then led into films that she's known for, like Neon Signs, and what's the other one with the famous director, she'll tell you, Mr. Young, whatever his name is, yeah. And then also at that time, her first brushes with yoga and helping found the London Yoga Studio. So there's just so much going on there. And then there's the story, which I'm sure you're going to want to get into in talking to her. And that's about her waking up experience and her journey from that world. And when you read the book, you'll see that it's during that whole time that she's asking all the same questions that all of us ask on our spiritual journey. Who am I? What's this all about? What's the deeper meaning here? Why does my heart feel so much? Why do I have psychic experiences? Why do I have telepathic experiences? What is love? Why do I love so deeply? And all of these things are explored, and they're explored through a lot of really traumatic situations. You'll see she's very involved in trauma recovery. And so there's just so much depth to this book, and it's really, really a wonderful journey. So I think with that kind of as a background, I was going to say, so not only the photography of this French photographer, but I think if you know cult films, you're going to remember a film called The Eyes of Laura Mars by Rebecca Blake. And the most famous photo by Rebecca Blake, which is in the Brooklyn Museum of Art, is called Model with a Ventriloquist Dummy. And the model is, of course, Karuna, then who was Carrie Pagano. So you just don't find these stories that often. It took me a while to learn about all this as I was cruising through my friendship with and my co-working with Karuna for so many years. So she is obviously a phenomenon. I think I've said enough, if not too much. And with that, I think let's kick it back to introducing Karuna and have Scott show the covers of her book. And let's just start chatting from all this stuff that I just threw out.
Oh, Mr. Kurt Johnson, honestly, how can we even speak live? Our friendship and our companionship is so, it's everything that every woman, man needs in a relationship, to have that support and that love. And, you know, I hope you're all still awake after that long, I wrote some things down because I don't even remember.
I didn't even go through the list of magazines and websites that have pictures of you from that era. I didn't even, Vogue Italy, Vogue Mexico, Chloe, Couture, and the book called Faces. It's on and on and on. So you don't find these stories that often.
You know, the real truth is why we're here. And yes, self-acceptance, love you for that. The power of perspectives. I love all this stuff. We've really got to understand that when we look back at where we came from at 7 years old in a family in Boulder, Colorado, and I'm, you know, back here after 20 years of being away and doing my work, I'm back. Because I had to come back to my roots, and I had to come and see my mama, and I had to sit with my mother, and I have, and she's still alive. She's lived through me for 2 decades more. So because I am someone who loves, like Kurt mentioned, so deeply, and I know you're all the same. I know we're mirroring each other right now. So I'd love everyone to chime in and be a part of this conversation. You know, the book is a miracle, really. For me to be asked to tell my story, I don't think it's that phenomenal, like Kurt said. It's just survival. And we have, you know, I have lived up on a mountaintop now for almost 30 years by myself, raising my 2 children, and they're now adults and have their own families. And it's a beautiful thing that I'm right in the middle of them. So I'm in Colorado, my daughter's in Massachusetts, and my son's in San Francisco. So it's just like mama's always in the navel point, in the core, in the stomach, right? And, you know, and that's where I rest with this story is this book needed to be told, because we need to share our experiences. A lot of my mentors have said, you know, you've got to share your story, Karuna. You've got to show that this life is a journey, and where it starts and where it continues and all that in between builds you to find your purpose and your destiny. And when I heard that in India for the first time, and then I returned 7 more times, I realized that I had a lot of work to do, especially when they gave me the name Karuna on the banks of the Ganga in Varanasi. I was like, where am I? You know, I literally received this name Karuna, compassion, and a Maha Shivaratri ceremony that lasted 24 hours. And honestly, somebody needed to spell the name for me because I really didn't understand what Karuna meant until I started embodying Karuna. And we often, have these deities in our home, statues, and I have buffalo calf woman with white buffalo calf woman right here with me, and Kuan Yin right there with me, and everywhere that I fall into trouble, I go to these places because I am so much on a journey to serve in this world. And we need each other, and we need community. And, when I walked into Guy Baudin's studio in Paris, I was maybe crying for 3 months because I had left Colorado with a one-way ticket to Paris, and I didn't get any work. It was like, there's no way. It's like, no, I'm like 19, from Boulder. And Boulder back then was just amazing. You could, ride your bike barefoot. My first job was at McDonald's. It was like, until they fired me because I was a vegetarian. And it was, it was one-way ticket to Paris. 2 agents came to Denver. And I sat with them with a pathetic portfolio. Like when I showed it to Guy Baudin, and mind you, I got sent to him because I literally opened up a magazine in my pensione after crying for 3 months. And I said, I was, paging through Vogue, and I said, this guy would love me. Like these girls look just like me. I've got to figure this out. I've got to manifest this. My girlfriend took me to lunch. Her agent was there, and her agent said to me, you've got to go see Guy Baudin. And that very day I went to see Guy Baudin, and there was 25 of the most beautiful women you've ever seen in your life sitting there. I had lost all my luggage. I had no money. I was in the same CU sweatshirt, jeans, and a pair of wooden shoes. And I'm sitting amongst the most beautiful women I've ever seen, young, beautiful. And the editor from French Vogue walks out, and I'm just sort of hiding. I'm literally like that tall. And he comes and he reaches his arm out to me, and he grabs my hand and he pulls me, and I'm like, oh, you must be making a mistake. I'm sure this isn't possible. And I walked in and I walked back, and Guy Baudin was about this tall. And I said, bonjour. And I handed him my book. And he took my book and he looked at me straight in the eye and just went like this. He didn't look at a picture. And I was like apologizing, saying, don't blame you. No good. And then he handed me back my book, my portfolio, and off I went, and completely had, no clue that when I went back to this agent, she said I was booked for 6 months of French Vogue. We manifest. So first lesson, we manifest. And we've got to share that story however we can, in music, in dance, in poetry, everything Christopher's writing to the men. We've got to share this relationship to give each other that amazing ability to listen. And that's why I'm a yogi. Because when I was in New York, I was then given a ticket back home to go to New York and sign with Eileen Ford. And, when I started sitting there amongst all those beautiful women, I was like, oh my God, I've got to really make sure I know what I'm doing here. because the envy, the jealousy, the anger, that I'm not good enough, the whole theory of the looking glass was like turning this mirror right onto me at a really young stage in my career. It was a gift, and it gave me the ability to just love more deeply and enjoy. When I went on the Merv Griffin show, it was like with Nina Blanchard, an agent from LA. And she brought me to LA from New York, and I was exactly how excited I am to tell you the story today going on that Merv Griffin show, because it was just like we had to buy a dress for $25 or less, and we had to come with this little frock on and talk about it. And I was like really stupid. It was really, really silly. And it was perfect because it gave me the ability to receive a compliment from anybody that I knew I had nothing to do with. I just to keep smiling, keep loving, and keep sharing. And so after I met Kurt in Costa Rica, I think it was my first retreat that I was teaching in Costa Rica. He gave me this gift. We ran into each other, literally. No one introduced us. He gave me this gift to find my voice even more, not just as a teacher, but as someone who could serve with dignity and grace. And that's what Kundalini Yoga teaches you, because it shows you what your character is, and it shows you how to get to each stage in your life with meditation and with yoga practice. And how you literally listen to the voice inside of your heart instead of the opinions from the looking glass of others. I figured out that I really needed to dive deeper into this understanding. And with Kurt as a companion and a colleague, he gave me the stability to find my 2 feet on the ground at the same time. Because as you can imagine, I was pretty light. And I knew that, if I did enough of my own homework and enough of my own waking up, growing up, cleaning up, showing up to open up and lift up, being with Ken Wilber, teaching him yoga eventually, and bringing in and Father Thomas Keating and Mirabai Starr. I mean, we journeyed and we got around, and that gave me the passport home to my heart, and to believe that, okay, we can try to write a book. I mean, we can, so come on out, we'll sit on my deck and and I'll riff and you type. And so we did that for about a month, and we brought it to you now to enjoy and have fun with it. And I hope with the manual as well, that's coming out, that's separate from the book, that will be a companion to people, because I so often, I don't know about you all out there, I'm sure you do this too, you put your book up to your third eye point, you let the page open, and there is your asana, there's your meditation, there's exactly what you need. So it's an honor. It's an honor to be with you, Scott, and with all of you. And I'm very happy to share this moment with you. Thank you so much.
Well, here's the book, Light on Kundalini, your lifestyle guide to yoga and awakening. And of course, we're just getting a little homeopathic dose of you and of the book right now. But I'd love to ask you, what would you say is one of your favorite tips to give to our audience for putting our light on awakening? Our show is called The Awakening World. So how do you put your light, the divine light or your own higher self light, onto your own personal awakening?
I think I, again, mirror every single one of you here. how do you put your light on your own awakening? I'd like to give that right back to all of us. And if we could just sit for a moment and really take that in and answer that with each other right now, really feel that, because I think when we come as a pillar of light through the birth canal, we have the ability to cycle through all there we are. Hi, everyone. Love you. Thank you for being here, my family. It's so beautiful to see you all. We all have the ability to heal and to shine. We do, no matter what. And I often use pain as a privilege to take me back to rest, to heal, to speak, and to listen. And I think it's so important that we all do that for each other and discuss each other, have a conversation with each other.
Mm.
Yeah, and somebody asked in chat, the book will be out in the fall. It's in production right now. So just watch for it at our website, Amazon, and so on. And you'll hear about it. Scott will help us get the.
Yeah, we will definitely do an announcement when this one comes out. And if anybody wants to put into the chat box through the course of the evening, the answer to that question, how do we shine our light on our own awakening or on the awakening of our planet? It's funny, as I was kind of asking that, my dog jumped into my lap.
Oh, good.
She teaches me because she shines her light because she's just pure love, right? And
she hears our voices. So, I'm a triad dog in that sign, and 5 houses in Scorpio. So the Kundalini, the base of my spine, was inevitably going to wake up in this lifetime, right? So let us breathe, right? Let us chant, let us sing, and let us move our bodies in such a way that we just feel that. Yeah, just move. Just everyone move. And all you got to do is scoot your hips right to left, right to left. And it just, because we're dormant at the base of our spine. The kunda, the coiled up, pent up energy for lifetimes. So I see all your beautiful, I saw that, Omashar. I saw them. They just put my eyes in the right place all the time. And, then, so many young people come and ask, is it safe to awaken your Kundalini or your energy, the spiral dynamic? Is this absolutely? Because you're all super healthy, right? And if we're not, then we take the responsibility to really heal and give ourselves that music. Just listen to Omashar's music and Marcy's music when she plays it for you. Wait till you see the work everyone's doing in the world for us. I love all of you. I love seeing you and the mother energy that you brought in. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you very much. And, you've been popping up a lot because we're going to be doing in a couple of weeks a big show with the Founding Mothers Movement. And they were talking about you. Omashar saw you at a party in Colorado at Steve Farrell's. Of course, I've been looking forward to hearing you, meeting you. And then people said, oh, Karuna, we love Karuna. So you are the most beloved member of our community. And I want to acknowledge the majority of people watching Karuna are actually watching on all the Facebook groups and pages and YouTube channels that we go out over. So we love our local Zoom room audience because those are our loyal subscribers that show up to all of our shows. But we really want to acknowledge everybody who's watching. And again, we will certainly promote the book, Light on Light. What I'm going to do is, actually, before I go back to Light on Light, let's go back to your book for a moment. So there's the cover, and there's going to be the book and the manual. And let's all shine our light right now. All of us who are watching, all of us in the Zoom room, let's shine our light as we look at this book cover, Maximum Grace, for Karuna, aka Carolina Ashley. And this book, may all the right people find it with magic. May they always turn to the right page. And may this book just be blessed, just as Karuna was blessed that magical day in France, as we all are blessed when Kurt Johnson shows up like Santa Claus, bringing gifts and toys, whether we've been good or bad. So maximum grace for light on Kundalini.
Yeah. Now, one thing that you said hit me like a ton of bricks, and it's the power of when we see each other. I look at every powerful friendship that I have. I'm lucky to have many. It's because people see each other. And even in that cell, in itself, that's healing and it's empowering. And it just tells us who we are, just like bam. And so the amazing things that happen in our lives, it's truly is amazing. And Scott, knowing you, it's been wonderful. It's been fun. We've had some great times. And the way that you help your community, and even the woman that we were speaking about before the show came on that you were so worried about, which is why I could tell you were suffering from some type of little anxiety. So I'm glad we had a chance to talk about that. But the people, when we reach out, it's that love that does the healing. And I think that's how, why Karuna and I ended up with all these others creating something. When we saw each other in Costa Rica, I was leaving the next day, she came up with a card and she said, "You're going to think I'm crazy, but we're going to end up working together." And I said, "Well, I'm in New York, you're in Boulder. I don't know how that's going to happen." But when I got back to New York, I had an invitation to do a program at Naropa in Boulder. And so I invited Karuna, and that was then the first time that we got to really sit down and chat, then to pass in the hallway. And then the rest is history and all the work that we've done together. And that's true of so many people. And Scott, the whole coterie of people that you brought together with the Global Peace Tribe and Awakening World, same way. It's just really what it's all about.
It is.
Charles, thank you for your music. Wonderful.
The most popular movie of all time so far is Avatar. And what's the message of the movie? I see you. And so it's true. We all want to be seen. And again, that's maybe the answer to the question, is learning to shine the light and to see the divinity in all, to see beyond the human foibles, to certainly see past our judgments and to see the divinity of all. I want to make sure everybody does know about the incredible publications that are available through Light on Light Press. And if you, the page that I'm on right now, for all of you watching on Facebook, I'll put the link into the chat box. But for those of you watching outside of our Zoom room, go to issuu.com. That's one I, two S's, two U's, like I see you, issuu.com. And that's where you're going to see all of the Light and Light publications.
At /light on light, issuu.com/light on light. And all of these are free. You just click on the cover.
Yeah, and amazing. I mean, look at these publications with so many of our friends. Here's our moment of choice. We did a whole show way back on the Saturday Night Live days on that show. And of course, our friend Deepak Chopra. So there's a lot of wonderful publications here. Thank you very much. It's wonderful to meet you, Karuna. And I'm going to see.
Love it. So happy to know you, brother.
And you're going to be back, in a few weeks on September 11th when we're doing the Founding Mothers Movement. Karuna is going to be one of the women joining us. And we're going to kind of help launch the Founding Mothers Movement on September 11th, right here on this show. And I think that's, I think it's 3 weeks from tonight. So we'll see you again then, Karuna. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Kurt, I'll see you frequently on all the.
I know we're on so many committees together.
I know, going from one to the next. Thank you so much, my friend.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you, Kurt. Blessing.
Pleasure.
Blessing.
We're going to have an Om Shore song in a moment, and then we're going to hear and meet Christopher and learn about his work. But I want to read some of the comments that have come in from our audience. And there's a couple of really personal ones that are quite beautiful. Eleanor Joy was so inspired by hearing the story of Karuna that she wrote the following. Whoops, where are you on it, Joy? I had it right here. Now, come on. It's so funny. It was here.
Breathe, take that pause. Every time we get this pause, we got to just go like, oh, hi.
I'm wondering if she removed it because it's not there anymore. At least it's not in the chat box where we had it. All right, well, I guess I'm hallucinating. But
I see one that says, yes, most of us, if not all. Is
Yeah.
that the one you're looking for?
there it is. You're right. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So from Eleanor Joy, thank you, Sylvia. I have to admit, I am a little bit knocked out of my body from kind of what I was working with just before the show began. Eleanor Joy writes, I just shared with Ian, her partner, that about 55 years ago, I wanted to end my life. I was in my car with an overhead bridge. Life felt hopeless. I felt helpless. Well, thank God she didn't jump off that bridge. So grateful now to be dancing and singing. She says, I really appreciate hearing stories like what Karuna is sharing. And Carol Craig also responded, at 31 in 1991, I also felt like I had enough. Instead of taking myself out like several others close to me had, I decided to get sober and figure out what I'm doing here. I was sober for 26 years and dove into my spiritual journey and somehow found myself here in the Global Peace Tribe with our wonderful company. So thank you for that, Carol. And Marcy, who we're going to meet at the end of the show, writes, speaking truth and empathetic listening. Absolutely. So thank you for sharing that. And with that, I think it's time to move and groove. So here's Omashar.
Nothing in my life's the same. It seems my world is falling into the dust that gave it birth. Empty feelings find me deep in contemplation, waiting for the rise of Mother Earth. And we all know what we've come here for, and we all feel that our hearts are true, and together we will make it home, and we'll trust to love once more.
What a perfect song for what we just heard from Karuna. And
I'm always amazed because the intuition for each song comes up before the show. I usually intuit the day before or the same day. And I think, we're really going to play that song? And then you hear the content of the program, and it's like, well, yeah, duh. Thank you.
absolutely tuned in. Beautiful, beautiful. All right. Well, I get to introduce you to Christopher Stubbs. I met him through the Twin Ray community, and Christopher, we have a lot of people here that are also part of the Twin Ray community. And I'm going to briefly read a little bit about his bio. I'll also put it into the chat box. He's the founder of the Wolf Pack and also the Men of Sovereignty. He's been a men's empowerment coach since 2006, so that's 18 years. His expertise and pursuit of greatness as a husband, father, businessman, and thought leader have blessed his life and the lives of many, many others. Tonight, I think it's going to bless us. He's all about helping people connect to their higher selves, creating an amazing life. I know he's very dedicated to family. He's had an extraordinary background. He's had to overcome really some very, very difficult situations, grew up at a very early age, very influenced by Native American indigenous wisdom, and has written a very unique and wonderful book, which we're going to learn all about. The book is really, I think, well, we'll have you tell us all about it. It's all about the Atma Male. And this is a book that we can get on Amazon. So it is ready now. And it's called The Atma Male, an ancient model of success in a postmodern world. So we'll talk about that in a moment, but Christopher, welcome to the Awakening World. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you to Karuna and Kurt and the beautiful musician. Like, it's been wonderful to be here, and thank you, Scott.
You know, you and I were on a hike together up in Ashland, and we ended up walking quite a while together, and you shared about your amazing history, and I just was wondering if you'd be willing to, you know, share a little bit about that remarkable background you've had as a precursor to talking about the book.
I would be glad to. So I was born into a fundamentalist Mormon community, a small community where they were, it was taught that they were basically the only chosen people of God in a small community. And by the time I had come around, my father had turned to alcohol and pornography and became very abusive, and there was a lot of things going on. By the age of 5, he had finally went to prison for the things he was doing to us kids. And my mom and us lived one single mother who was completely lost to herself on a Native American reservation 47 miles north of Las Vegas, Nevada. And so that was a whole nother chapter. The first 5 years was just a lot of very intense experiences back to back with my father. And then the next 5 years was us learning to survive as very, you know, a small family of people that the natives didn't, you know, had a lot of trauma in relation to Caucasians. And so there was a lot of dynamics that happened there. And then my mom married back into that religious group to a man who had several wives and a couple, 2-3 dozen children. And so I spent the next 4 years learning how to navigate in that world, as, you know, milking cows and hauling hay and working on a farm. And so there were a lot of things gained through that experience as well. And then I ran away at 14, no driver's license, drove 7.5 hours to Phoenix, found my dad, and spent about a month there, but it was still too intense for me. And so I ended up being taken in by a beautiful family that treated me as their own and had a beautiful environment as I finished out high school. And then I started my own business, was married, had 2 children, and ended up in a divorce that really brought up my deepest wounds and pains and sent me to one of my few dark nights of the soul so far, where I ended up with a gun in my throat, and luckily didn't follow through with that night. Came very close, and then I've been on a deep spiritual, psychological, emotional, mental journey ever since then.
And one of the things that has impressed me is how you've had to adapt to all these different lives. And so how does learning to adapt to very different family dynamics, very different cultural situations, what has that informed you? How have you taken those experiences and applied it to teaching men how to be in the world?
So, there's so many layers to that, but many blessings, like they say, anyone who travels the world extensively, you can't really stay a racist, right? If you truly connect and travel everywhere and open up to getting to truly know people, you can't stay in those separation vibes very good. And so I'd say some light side and dark side of that. So one, becoming highly adaptable, awesome, to all kinds of different environments and being able to be at home in very diverse environments. But then on the flip side, becoming a chameleon. So if you take some of the traumas that I've carried and the long self-love journey I've been on, becoming a chameleon to adapt to gain approval outside has been also a downside. But then if you lead into the book, there's this, I can tell the story in another way. And it's essentially like, first 5 years, a lot of fear and abuse and neglect and just came into the world where it felt like a scary place. Same thing with the next 5 years in a different way. And then I have 4 years of learning grit and toughness and the ability to work in the cold or work in the heat or get hurt and just carry forward. And so to do very hard things. But then that grew up into my adult life for the next lifetime I've lived in this life of being emotionally shut down, not knowing how to show feeling, not knowing how to show weakness, not knowing how to be vulnerable, not even knowing how to identify feelings, walking around very, very stoic and just war, pushing, fighting, grinding through everything. And so there's some divine traits in all of that were harnessed and cultivated in having follow through, having integrity, having, willpower and all these things. But at the same time, it came at a cost of not the emotional intelligence or emotional availability or to be fully present in my body and actually be aware of my body and be in relationship with my body and my emotions and all those things. And so this ties in the men I serve because there's kind of 3 camps, but the 2 most popular camps have been kind of that rough, tough, macho. They often call themselves alpha. I call them chest pounders. And then you have the next chapter for me came where I dove into spirituality, and a lot of those traits that I had cultivated softened. So it softened rough edges and toxicity and all kinds of non-working patterns and ways of being. But it also softened some of my fortitude, some of my boundaries, some of my self-care, so that I kind of, one way it's been presented to me is that when the wounded masculine needs to go to the feminine to heal and then integrate these feminine aspects, but they get to keep their own innate, essential masculine aspects on board, and they're not meant to become feminine per se fully, but to integrate the two and to ultimately move about, not completely, constantly, forever, now resting in the feminine and, throwing the baby out with the bathwater on their masculine. And so when I went overly soft into that feminine, I had become good at making money. I stopped being able to make money. The polarity and connection and intimacy in my relationship, like that turned off. And there were all these, it was interesting to me because I was like, wow, I brought in all these new great traits and I've embodied so many beautiful things. And then next chapter was, okay, now you need to find this middle ground where you have, both the strong masculine, strong feminine, but you're not just gripping to one. And I realized I had cast out a lot of quality traits with the not so quality ones. And so the men that end up being drawn to me, there's a lot of men out there just chase still the American dream. So, a certain look of a wife, the car, the house, the bank account, the social status, and nothing wrong with having all of those things. The man that tends to come to me is the man who never quite fit in with that alpha tribe. And when we see the book, it says the alpha male, and then it crosses out alpha and says the Atma male, because Atma means higher self, right? Transcending the lower heart, lower mind, embodying and integrating into our essence, our soul, our higher self, and doing what it takes daily to embody that fully so that we walk as that always, and becoming less and less reactive and more responsive. And so the men that didn't quite fit in with the too macho-y men, or didn't quite fit in with the anti-masculinity or the overly like, oh man, let's just smoke joints and surf all day. They were like still, into creating in an intentional way. So these tend to be the men that come finding that middle ground, that balance of, and constantly enhancing both our masculine and feminine.
I'm going to go to the actual book right now, just so we can look at the cover. Here it is. There is the alpha crossed out Atma male, an ancient model of success in a postmodern world. And I see that you've got Gay Hendricks, who's been on the show a few times. He and Katie have been on the show, and I've known them and appreciated them for decades. They're wonderful. Tell us a little bit more about how you in current time work with men. The Wolf Pack is an interesting name. Again, I remember what you told me and I was really intrigued by it. And the Men of Sovereignty. Tell us a little bit about that.
So the Men of Sovereignty is kind of like it's my most advanced students. And I cap that at 12 men. And we meet once a week. And we check in, we fill out a form before every call to get connection points with the key aspects of their life, like what's their current frequency or state of being? How are they doing with their daily habits of journaling and meditating and working out and breathing and one other thing that I forgot. And then we choose what's the most important thing you could create this week. And then we look into and we measure every week and we check in. But it's the thing that probably stands out the most about it is most men tend to do what I call lone wolf syndrome, where I don't know, if you're in a high school locker room, you don't think, oh, this is a place I want to learn to be vulnerable and be all of myself and share my struggles and problems, because that's not going to help anything. It's going to make it worse. So what happens here is we share everything. We share our wins, we share our struggles, we talk business, we talk relationship, health, sex. Nothing's off the table. And it's a very safe place where you're not going to be empowered in your victim story, but you're also not going to be beat down. You're always going to be uplifted. and upheld. And then we work together as a team where every person on the call every week gets time and everyone chips in on whether it's some strategy or a connection or a resource or a facilitated breakthrough or some energy work or whatever. So we get on, we breathe together, we go through this progress compass, and then we do this hot seat experience where we're all for one for a time until we know that they're optimally clear and empowered with obstacles removed for the coming week. And it's just the most profound experience to share. It's the lowest attrition rate I've ever had. Like pretty much no one ever leaves the group. And it's just this brotherly bond because every single day and every single week, we are all committed continuously to embodying the next greatest version of ourselves and doing the things that set us up for success in whatever it is that we're here doing. And I can go into the wolf pack when you're ready, but I did quite a bit on that one.
No, that's beautiful. Tell us about the wolf pack.
So the wolf pack, I wanted to be able to reach men on a similar level because the transformations and the embodiment. We ended up going to an event together one time, and it was something like 35 participants. And because we were there, about 12 of us, there was about 50-50 men and women. Historically, in the past, it used to be me and a dude or two with 20-30 women. And over the years, it seems like maybe the men are starting to try to catch up. But we went to this event, and it ended up about 50-50 men, women. And at the end of the event, as everyone was sharing, it ended up that one of the most profound experiences for both men and women that were not in our group of men of sovereignty, almost all of their shares, probably about 95%, that this event we attended that was someone else's, about 95% of the shares were how much their breakthrough was as a result of relating with a group of 12 men who had been doing work together on that level for that long. And so over this 3-day event, it ended up that just us being there, being ourselves, ended up being one of the biggest highlights of the majority of people there. And so we started to look at, man, we've got to get this out further. This is huge, just that thing alone. And so I spent a long time looking to how could I accomplish the same thing without being limited to 12 men. And so it took me about 2 years of meditations and inspiration and journaling and all these things. And then when I was asking, what's the name of this? And I was thinking, well, it needs to be kind of macho, or else most of the men will write us off. If I call it most of what I do is self-love and integrity and emotional intelligence. But if I called it the self-love thing, the men that I most need to reach would probably write it off.
Right.
And so I read this story about Yellowstone National Park where they had killed off all the wolves. And the impact that it had on Yellowstone was so tremendous because of the circle of life. When the wolves were gone, then the game that they ate overpopulated and then ate the vegetation, and then the rain came and the riverbanks caved in and with mudslides, and then everything rerouted, and then eventually all the animals moved out of all these areas, and everything got completely out of whack. And then they put the wolves back in, and it brought it back into order in this major, just amazing, miraculous fashion of how it brought back everything. The moose, the elk, the deer, the birds that had all been gone came back because this one piece was put back in. Well, they say strong men make good times make weak men, weak men make hard times make strong men. But one of the things we tend to miss is, like, the way I grew up and the way my parents were, was this very gritty, rugged individualist that had a lot of things right in certain ways. But there's so much missing on a deeper spiritual level often, or emotional level. And so what my desire is to help as many men as possible to find their true essence, their highest self, and embody that more and more and more every day in every way. And through this, so many things that we navigate. So a lot of our relationship challenges boil down to trauma patterns or attachment styles or self-worth issues or codependence or nice guy syndrome or all these things. Or when it comes to making money, a lot of that boils down to self-love and integrity and all these things. And so to be able to prioritize coming into that center and creating that internal love that becomes the foundation for all other things, while also constantly learning and growing with, not only emotional intelligence and spirituality, meditation, all these things, but in business and in marketing and in sales and in communication and body language and everything that we can empower ourselves with to navigate in the most effective and enjoyable ways.
Beautiful. It's beautiful work that you're doing, Christopher. It's really beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I appreciate the work you do.
Are you familiar with the term a snag?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, you kind of talked about falling, and I've fallen into being a snag in my life. The snag, by the way, is an acronym for sensitive new age guy. They are prevalent. And I've kind of gone into that. And it's true. It's a balance of finding that being sensitive and emotionally intelligent, but not losing our primal male in the process, and not losing the ability to go out there and be assertive and aggressive.
Yeah.
People are always surprised that I'm very competitive, actually, because in this show I'm Scott and I'm sweet and I'm new agey, but I'm a very competitive guy. When I'm playing sports, I want to win. When I'm watching sports, I'm screaming for my team to win. Are there any final thoughts you'd like to share with the audience? And likewise, if there's any questions from the audience, please pop them into the chat box. And Eleanor Joy writes, I love that, Christopher. You are the Atma male, and that you are, absolutely. Beautiful balance. While we're waiting to see if any questions come in or what Christopher might want to conclude, again, you can order his book on Amazon. And there's a Kindle edition as well. And there's an audio book. Did you do your own audio?
No, I hired someone to do the voiceover, but it's on Audible.
Right. So it's on Audible, Kindle, or of course, you can buy it as a paperback. So there it is on Amazon. For those of you watching, just go to Amazon and put in Atma, A-T-M-A, male, and it'll come up quite easily for you. I guess I want to ask, since this community is very spiritually oriented, how does all of this impact your actual daily spiritual life?
So one of my great mentors, you mentioned Gay and Katie Hendricks, and I worked with them as an apprentice for several years, and that was one of the greatest blessings of my life. And then I spent 3 years with the Lakota tribe. I've spent 7 years with shaman in South America, not full-time, but extensively involved. And I started to study rites of passage. And one of the things in this book is some of the work from Carl Jung, where he identified these 4 archetypes of the warrior, the lover, the magician, and the king. And I gained tremendous insights by studying with Yogananda, a combination of Yogananda and Michael Singer. What was your question again? So I can tie this.
Your own how this is kind of your spiritual, your personal spiritual.
Yeah, Yogananda pointed out that there's the yogi that lives in an ashram and that's his life. And then he pointed out that there's the family man that can also achieve enlightenment while owning a business or having a career, running a family and all those things. And he kind of broke it out down to something like, kind of like the 10,000 hour rule, where they say practice anything for 10,000 hours, you achieve mastery. Kind of similar to that about 3 hours a day, and then maybe an additional session here and there that anyone can get there. And so in the beginning, it feels impossible. Like, man, I've got so much on my plate. How could I possibly have time for this? So I started at 20 minutes a day meditation and ended up at an hour and a half morning and an hour and a half night. And that's my sweet spot. Anytime I maintain that, it's like life is magic. So how does it impact it? It changes everything. And tying it to those rites of passage, when I mastered the ability through meditation technique that works for each individual to turn my brain off or my thinking off like a light switch and go into stillness, and I cultivate that ability to stay in stillness, then I go from that warrior aspect of the discipline that got me to that stillness into the divine love aspect, the lover aspect of feeling that wholeness, that sovereignty, that divine love, that no fear of the past or judgment of the past or the future, that I can access that every single day. And the more often I access that, the more I know myself as that, the faster I become my Atma self. And so through developing and cultivating the mental discipline to turn off the thoughts and to just be here in the present moment opens up this divine love. And from that divine love place, I'll first work through upper limits and be transmuting old pains and traumas and stuck energies and all these things. But then my frequency raises and raises and raises the more often I go there. Now we step into the third archetype, which is he called it the magician. I call it the alchemist. And for various reasons, but I'll save time. So the alchemist essentially becomes less and less reactionary to life because he's so full of love and truth and wisdom and wholeness and sovereignty that it's not personal. His samskaras are no longer being triggered. And so whatever life brings to him, he easily navigates it like Neo learns how to do in the Matrix. He becomes the alchemist. Give him lead, he'll make it into gold. You give him coal, he'll make it into a diamond. So as he gets more and more rooted in his higher self, it don't matter what life brings. He responds in such a way that it always becomes something magical and a blessing. And then as you integrate all of those, you step into what he called the king, but there's so much negative context with what kings could have been often that I changed it to Atma, because rather than me walking around saying, I'm the king, what if I made the energy of what I'm going for and what I'm helping other men go for, I'm moving towards becoming my higher self. And it just, for me, has that different energy of, Atma versus king. It just takes away anything else we might make up about what a king is or isn't. And then it allows room for each person's higher self is their own, right? It has similar things, but with their flavor. And so it doesn't put you in a box of what has been or what people think it should be. It puts it in the box of who you are as your full authentic expression. And so, hope that was helpful and not too worried.
It was beautiful. Omushar writes, thank you, Christopher. Wholly inspirational, and that's an understatement. Truly an amazing synthesis of your life's path to date and its actualization into shepherding us all. There's hope for me yet. Yes, there is, Omushar, definitely. Christopher, thank you so much for being on The Awakening World, being with us. Again, I've put into the chat box kind of your information, but one more time, if you go to Amazon and just put in the Atma Mail, you'll be able to find his book there. What a blessing. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you again soon. Hopefully we'll both be in Ashland again for a special time. And please give my best to Megan. Would you?
Thank you so much, Scott. And thank you everyone else who's watching or here or watching a recording. It's been a joy.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Whew. All right. Grace Denise just wrote, the world needs this. Yes, Grace, you're right. And I hope Christopher heard that. Well, we're going to meet my friend Marcy Winters in a moment. And to introduce Marcy, I'm going to actually play a video that she created. It's a song. And it's a song I think most of us are certainly just feeling the tremendous pain of what's going on in Gaza. And that was an inspiration. We'll hear all about Marcy and her inspiration for this song in a moment. It's called Snow is Falling in Jerusalem. And it's a good introduction to Marcy.
We stand tall behind Pride's wall. We can't see through fear and insecurity. All the children, they understand. It's all they have. No sunrise anymore. Snow is falling. Jerusalem. While the children play, while the children play, snow is falling. Jerusalem. At 5, Leia went out to play. Came back inside with a hand grenade. Cinnamon skies all turned to gray. Snow is falling. Jerusalem. While the children play, while the children play, snow is falling.
And this is my friend Marcy, who wrote and sang that song. Welcome to the Awakening World, Marcy. I know you've come to some of our shows and been in the audience. And I guess let's just start with the inspiration for that song. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, well, I lived in Israel on the border of Israel and Egypt in a place called Eilat. And I was working in a ganenet, which is like a kindergarten, at a kibbutz, which is communal living. And there was a young girl that went outside on the playground. Some of the kids were still inside with another teacher and myself. And she came in from outside into the classroom holding a hand grenade. So the teacher to my right, the lead teacher, I was just a guest teacher, volunteering at the time. She very gingerly got up, walked over to the child, and I have called her Leia in the song when she came in with the hand grenade. And she just walked her back to the back of the school where we were And I went into shock. I just sat there and hoped for the best. And there was obviously light shining on us, and the teacher retrieved the hand grenade, and I'm here to tell the story. But I had to witness what was a very violent time when I lived there, and somewhat, similar to what has begun now, but not quite as intense. So I'm glad that you played that song, because I hesitated sharing it, because I know it is sad, and I was thinking about sharing an uplifting song live, and then we had some technical trouble. But now that I'm thinking about this community, thank you for listening, and thank you for hearing my story about why I wrote it. I just have so much compassion for the Israeli and Palestinian children on both sides of this issue, and we don't have to get into politics, but I certainly am writing this and motivated by peace, creating peace. And I believe that our future generations and the children are hopefully what will promote this. At this time, I don't think the adults are doing very well. So that's a little bit about how the song came to be.
Thank you. You and I first met, I think, through the common connection to nonviolent communication, compassionate communication, and we've done many shows on that here on the show. We've had people like John Kenyon and others on, and of course, I had the great blessing to travel with Marshall and get to know him quite well. Tell us a little bit about your relationship to NVC, also known as Compassionate Communication, and your giraffe book, Giraffe Juice.
Yes, Giraffe Juice. Well, Marshall did an intensive in Brazil in 2003, and I got to go to Brazil and study with Marshall. And it was absolutely incredible. He is amazing. He was amazing. I feel like he's still with us in spirit. So he inspired the book Giraffe Juice, because he said at the time that there was no nonviolent communication books for young people. So myself and J.P. Allen decided to write the book. So I will show you what it looks like. I have it right here. And it teaches nonviolent communication in an entertaining way. And I've used it in middle schools on Maui. And I understand also that it has been used in Canada in domestic violence support groups with adults. So I'm so pleased that it's making a difference in the world. And it is available on Amazon. We have also a workbook, which is fun, crossword puzzles and such, to help learn the language of nonviolent communication. And then we got a Korean publisher, North Korea, published it, and it's in color. It's beautiful. And recently, the Center for Nonviolent Communication, the publishing company, Puddle Dancer Press, was interested in having us on board, and we are hopefully going to be translating the book in various languages. We're looking at hopefully Portuguese, French, perhaps German. Nothing is, definitive at the moment, but we are in a contractual state and just moving ahead, and hopefully it will be spread internationally. And let's hope for peace not only in the Middle East, with if in fact it could get translated into Arabic, into Hebrew, how about into the languages in all languages? How about if we just spread it all around? I'm hoping that it just creates peace in our world. So.
Absolutely. And how have you kind of translated all your different interests? You're a musician, you're a filmmaker. We're going to talk about Izzy Cox Fighting the Devil in a moment. Tell us a little bit about just how you've also, we've heard from our two previous guests about their life history. Share with us a little bit more about your journey, your life history, your path.
Okay. Yes. Well, I grew up on stage and musical theater, and then I went to film school. And when I graduated and I worked in the film business, it didn't really give me that much pleasure because I realized that working with children and the innocence that they encompass, and they're here, they really have so much to teach us, the younger generation. Was more enthralling to me than being in the film business. So I wound up freelancing instead of working in the executive type of world after I graduated from film school. And as an educator, I wanted to just be with kiddos and learn from them. And I worked as an educator for many years. And then what I did is I realized that I had a mission to um, to encourage children and support their creativity. So I took the knowledge that I had from becoming a graduate of film school and from my background in musical theater, and I started a company called Empower that teaches life skills to kiddos. And I got certified in yoga and meditation and qigong and mediation. So I acquired these certifications, and I began to teach after school programs for young people. And that has brought an incredible amount of gratification. So thus I'm an educator, and then I decided to write the book because I've always been a writer. Wrote music, by the way, after college. Just because I was in musical theater and all that growing up, I always had a sense of musicality. And I was kind of a late bloomer. My brother was the musician. He was a child prodigy and played concertos for adults when he was only 4 years old with adults. So I kind of took a little back seat and just kind of stayed more on the stage and not necessarily with an instrument as a lead. And then yeah, the music kind of came through me as we know as artists, and many of us that are watching in community, I'm sure feel that way. If you're a poet or whatever you do, people that are watching, you probably feel a sense of just wanting to channel something. If maybe some of you even like to cook, and that's your culinary artistry. So I found that the music was very healing. And I began to teach beginning guitar and voice. I've had a career in voiceover as well. A fun fact is that I was Interplanet Janet on Schoolhouse Rock on the CD-ROM. You'll probably heard of the Schoolhouse Rock stuff. And so I did that, and I now help individuals that want to learn voiceover also, not just music, beginning guitar and voice, but voiceover and acting. I train. And then as far as my film that I made, Scott, that you referenced, Izzy Cox Fighting the Devil. I met a man called Omar Musa here, an amazing Palestinian man that I'm very connected to. And he had all this footage, actually 8 years of footage with a man named Gabriel Lopez of this woman called Izzy Cox, an Austin musician from Austin that had this gypsy spirit and an amazing sensitivity and musicality. So I immediately felt a kinship to Omar. Looked at some footage. I said, "Can I help you? Can I come aboard?" He said, "Please." So I became the executive producer and I became the creative editing consultant. So there you have it. That was a feature that was, as I said, about 8 to 10 years in the making, and we are now on streaming. And yeah, so that was my last feature, a documentary. So yeah.
Mike.
Thank you.
You there?
Yes, I am. I was talking away and had forgotten that I'd muted myself. Our one of our regulars, Susan, who we love, writes, I have a large picture by my bed of a mother and child giraffe to remind me of Marshall and NVC.
Ah.
And here's Marshall. I'm putting him on the screen for a moment. I've got those puppets, not those exact ones, but I've got puppets just like that right in my closet. And Marshall was a very, very beautiful man. He left this world much too early. But he was the founder of Nonviolent Communication, and the giraffe is the symbol for compassionate communication for many reasons. It has the largest heart of any land mammal. It has a long neck so it can see the big picture. It can observe what's really happening. There are other cell qualities of the giraffe that are kind of amazing. I was at an ITT, and I think you did an ITT also. Did you ever see the documentary film that they showed where you see a mama giraffe and her baby, and the lion is getting ready to, is like coming up behind, and mama giraffe turns around and lifts up one leg like the Karate Kid, ready to strike the lion. And there's like this moment, and then the lion backs off. And that's an important one, because lots of people think that compassionate communication is just being nice or giving in. But actually, one kick from a giraffe can kill a lion. And now they are not predatory; they don't attack, but they will use protective use of force. And I always thought that was an important part about the giraffe story that Marshall used to tell as well.
I love that. And you know what I also heard on one of your programs that really inspired me, but one of your guests, and I want to say it was within the last couple of weeks when I was watching, or it was a rerun, I can't remember which night, but someone spoke of how to be able to confront issues is actually a very highly spiritual trait, rather than always, like, for instance, ignoring or suppressing. So, of course, with my past, just even getting counseling for some trauma, I know that I've heard, oh, ignore, which can work, in certain situations. But I also feel like there is truth to the silence is consent, and there is importance in being able to communicate in a way with empathetic listening. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Well, speaking of communicating with empathy, that leads to this current film you're making. And before I show the clip, tell us a little bit about the film, how you got involved, maybe set up the clip that we're going to show.
Yes. So I lived on the islands of Hawaii for many years, and that's where Scott and I met. Scott was he was premiering a documentary at the time on Kauai, and I was there and at the time, and I was teaching nonviolent communication, and I was making a film then also, and we just hit it off. And so after that, moved back to the mainland after I lived on Hawaii, the islands, for a while. So when I got back to the mainland, I really wanted to make a difference with youth, with our community here. And I saw a flyer at a coffee shop, and it said volunteers needed to teach music to foster kids. And the program was called Kids in a New Groove. So I gave a call and I asked what it was involved, sign me up. They found me someone within, I guess, a week to 3 weeks. And they said, I hope you're okay with a transgender youth. Do you have any problems with that? Before we connect you to, we want to make sure that's okay with you. I said, that's great. I can't wait. I was thrilled. So I went to a coffee shop, and this young lady walked in with her guardian because she was a teenager in out of the foster system. She head was down, her curls covering her face, couldn't see her, couldn't make eye contact. By the end of the first meeting, she says to me, in a very quiet voice, maybe we'll become best friends. My heart melted. I could not wait to spend time with this young lady. So fast forward, we spent every week together, an hour a week, doing vocal exercises, and Star is her name, and she can sing. So she was born a male. She's had incredible courage. She's now a young lady. Fast forward now to 7 years later, and she's letting me do a film, a short documentary on her life. So what you're going to see in this small clip is, excuse the audio, I've just started production, so we just got this together so you could see a little bit now, is a little glimpse into her dreaming about her future. I was with the associate producer of the film, and he asked a question to her about her singing career and what she wants to do with her life. So here it is, Scott. Thank you for setting it up with me.
Right, but it's a long process. I mean, I take a long time to, write stuff. But when I write, it's pretty good, I think. But if, the singing route doesn't, take off, then I always wanted to, help kids. Okay. In, the foster system, and, who have problems, behavioral problems. So,
you could totally do both.
Yeah, I could definitely do both. I just don't know how I'm going to juggle both.
Right.
I mean, I guess one would be kind of more freelance, and one would be a actual stable job. Singing would definitely be freelance one, and I think I could do both. That's if I have all the the mental stability to handle all of that.
Yeah. When do you like to write?
I haven't written in some time now, maybe almost a year.
What would you do with the foster kids?
Well, try to make things better for them. Because I know when I was in there, it was kind of a shit show. But that's what I...
social work?
Yeah, social work. But mostly kids who have behavioral problems. And because I used to be a pretty chaotic kid, so that's one of the things I always wanted to do.
I bet you could help a lot of kids too.
I would be able to, yeah. While also making things different, better for them while they're there.
Just being support, just being there for them kind of thing?
Yeah.
Beautiful. What have you learned working with her?
Gosh, Scott, and community, the courage of young people and the wisdom. I'm not sure if these souls are coming in with just many lifetimes of experience and insight, but she is so surprisingly real. I love the way she does not want to be in fear. If I'll say to her, oh, watch both ways before you cross the street or something like that, she says, well, what are you afraid? Don't be afraid. Don't be in fear. And I say, I get you. You're right. I shouldn't be in fear. She's just such a loving individual. She's ruled by Venus. She's born under the sign of Taurus, and the planet that rules Taurus is Venus. So she has this incredible loving instinct. And also, by the way, just her sense of self-worth. It's so interesting because she has a confidence, yet she's still working with some social anxiety and some phobias around eye contact, as I said, and being on camera. So that's what you're going to see in the film, also an arc of how she's grown. So she's taught me to be patient with my own needs to go out of the box. You know, when I need to push myself and I'm not quite there yet, you know, because she does that. So she teaches me to have courage and to not be afraid to make changes, right? I mean, to change genders, my goodness. What an inspiration.
Oh, beautiful. Well, Marcy, you are an inspiration. And how, if people want to contact you, what's the best way? What would be the best way for people to reach you?
Oh, thanks for asking. Well, giraffejuice.com is a website, you know, for the book, if they're interested in that. Now, directly, I do have, I guess, a Facebook page at Marcy Winters. They could contact me on Facebook. I think that's the easiest way, and then I could go from there as far as other means. I mean, I do have a website called Smile Maker Film, and I haven't put up information about the Patreon. With my company is called Empower Productions, and we are going to be, you know, fundraising for the film. The SmileMakerFilm.com is based on another film that I was working on, and I have information about that there. But yeah, Marcy Winters on Facebook, probably the easiest way, Scott.
Okay, I have put that in the chat box.
Mm-hmm.
Show all of our friends who are watching. Here is the Giraffe Juice website. Again, that's the wonderful book that she wrote,
Yes.
which helps to introduce young people to these beautiful teachings. And it's at giraffejuice.com.
Yeah, and Amazon has it there, so they can just go to Amazon too.
Okay, great. So when you go to Amazon to get Christopher's book, also pick up her book. You can get both at Amazon. Thank goodness for Amazon, right?
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And then again, if you want to find her on Facebook, whoa, that's my dog seeing something jazzy. Sorry. Here she is on Facebook. And I am going to, while she barks, which doesn't happen very often, I apologize. I'm going to turn over to Omashar for a closing song, but don't go away, everybody, because we have important announcements. Omashar, save the day here.
All right, here I am saving the day. It doesn't need to be saved because of just being on this show. I feel saved. Just being exposed to Marcy and Karuna and Kurt and Christopher. Holy smoke. Talking of holy smoke, do you like my digital background? This is the saving bit. All right. Contemplating everything I knew. Seems as though there's not much left that I would hold on to. Contemplating what is pure and true. Sun and moon and stars and light and earth and water too. We are rising, soaring, flying, living life so free. We are flowing, changing, growing, loving all we see. Glad to know we're coming home again. Open hearts and open minds and open doors and loving friends. Look at the one who's standing by you now. Destiny is in our hands, so leave the density behind. 'Cause we are right.
face of those who need the light of truth to help them turn the other cheek and turn around. Lift each other up into the highest point of view so that together we can move to higher ground. Contemplating all that I knew, it seems as though there's not much left that I would hold on to. I'm glad to know we're coming home again. Open hearts and open minds and open doors and loving friends, 'cause we are rising, soaring, flying, living life so free. We are flowing, changing, growing, loving all we see. One more time. Turning to the face of those who need the light of truth to help them turn the other cheek and turn around. Lift each other up into the highest point of view so that together we can move to higher ground. Contemplating everything I knew, seems as though there's not much left that I would hold on to.
Let's all give a big twinkle to each other. Thank you, everybody, for moving and grooving and dancing. And of course, to our beloved Omar Shar, thank you so much.
You are welcome, and there is only one of us here, so we're twinkling each other. So there it is.
Well, I need to get people's input, and I'm going to keep you on with me, Omar Shar. So tomorrow we've got this big event planned, a special event. It's Piper Dellums. We're going to celebrate her. We've arranged, Omar Shar is going to play music, Kristen Hoffman, Gary Malkin dancing. And it's been pointed out to me that 6 o'clock, which is when this event is going to kind of happen at the end of Summer Joy's Dance-a-thon, is the exact same time that Kamala Harris is giving her acceptance speech. Now, we are not political in this organization, but I do recognize that a lot of people are going to want to watch what she has to say. And so during tonight's show, Kristen Hoffman reached out to me and said, Scott, what do we do? I'm getting all this feedback from people that they are already committed to watching Kamala Harris at 6 o'clock Pacific time tomorrow night. So do we continue just as is? And of course, we are going to record it. Do we take a break? And while Kamala Harris is doing her thing, we're dancing, but we're not doing the full show? Or do we postpone to another date? And this has been going on with Kristen and I communicating about it over the last 45 minutes or so. So I would love to get people's feedback on what we should do. And I'll start with you, Omar Shar.
It's kind of weird because I think that because of Piper's history, it's kind of amazing that Kamala is going to be on at the same time. So I kind of feel that maybe we should continue, and people can watch the replay of Kamala, because it's not going to change what she says. She's going to be awesome and strong and powerful. And you know, I do see that the purpose of tomorrow night's event is a fundraiser for Piper, who is deeply in need of some financial cash. She's really strapped, having to choose between paying medical bills or paying your electric bills. Holy smoke, that is scraping the the bottom of the barrel, excuse me. So it's a hard one to, I mean, we could postpone it till Friday. I don't know. What's the feedback from Kristen? I know I'm not really helping here.
Your Kristen is befuddled. She wants to be careful not for us to make it too political, because I had suggested in my text what would it be like for us to actually watch, the acceptance speech, but Kristen thought that would be too overtly political. Grace is asking, what would Piper like to do? And yes, I will reach out to Piper. I wanted to kind of get feedback from all of you first, but I will, of course, reach out to Piper. Roger's agreeing with Omashar. Grace.
Yeah, and I'm fully flexible because, this is for Piper, not for us. And, we could push it to Friday. We could, if we think that it's going to reduce the amount of cash flow going to Piper tomorrow because there's only 10 people turn up instead of 100.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that people, people in the moment is when they feel inspired.
Because me as an apolitical person, I didn't even know it was happening. I'm in my own little wolf cave, and with a few wolfesses, of course. And
yeah, well, I mean, yesterday we all met, and nobody even brought it up. We none of us even thought about it. That's how kind of disconnected from the political world we all are. When I say us, I mean the other people who are putting together the show. I guess while we're talking about this, I will show everybody again. This is the planned show. And remember, everybody, that Summer Joy is doing another dance experience tomorrow. And that'll start at 2:22 p.m. Pacific time, 2:22 Pacific time, and I'll be there for the start of it. She's going to dance for about 4 hours. And around 6 o'clock, we're going to start transitioning. And then we'll be dancing to an Omashar song and a Gary Malkin song and a Kristen song. And then we're going to do about an hour and a half, 2-hour program that we've got mapped out. That's going to be a really wonderful program. So, we would love to, we have something planned. So, Eleanor Joy is saying we could listen to Kamala and send lots of love and light in her direction, which is kind of what I had suggested. And Kristen kind of nixed that because she thought it wouldn't be appropriate for us to be so overtly political, or to be making such a political statement. And Kristen just texted me that she thinks we should now stay the course. All right, so we will, Sylvia writes, yeah, it's for Piper. Let's ask her. And I agree with Carol. Politics is a deep part of Piper's story, which is true, of course. It seems like great timing. The folks have more than one device. They can do the speech there. This is also true. Lynn and Leaf are saying, let's keep the current schedule. So, yeah, Piper. All right, so I will reach out to Piper. I will send an email out confirming the Zoom room link and letting everybody know what's happening and what we've decided. Hopefully I'll reach Piper this evening. I know she goes to bed early. So there'll be an email sent out late tonight or tomorrow morning.
Yeah, there's a couple of postponed until Fridays in the chat, and so let's just go. Let's let Piper be the decider.
Okay.
And, because I don't know, is Kristen available on Friday?
I don't know. I'll ask.
Okay.
I'll ask.
Anyway,
she just texted me, so I'll let her know what some of the feedback was here, and it's been that kind of a day.
it has.
But what has been wonderful is we had Kurt Johnson on the show tonight, and we had the amazing. I'm going to start adding people. There's Kurt and Omashar, and Karuna was with us, and the wonderful Marcy Winters. There's Karuna, and I'm sure grateful for all of you. Thank you for the wonderful work you're doing in the world. Thank you for being an inspiration to our audience. Big love to each and every one of you. And everybody, tune in, and we'll see you tomorrow night or Friday night or Saturday night. We'll see everybody soon. Let you know what's happening. Take care, everybody.